And there's many of the superstars in sport around the world have grown up in those sort of places because they play against older people and they play a large number of different sports. Liam McDonald, the Crusaders and All Black fullback, now he's an outstanding cricketer. Probably could have been an New Zealand cricketer. He's an outstanding golfer as well. So he plays a wide range of sports. Kieran Reid apparently had to make a choice whether he played cricket or rugby. Ali Williams, believe it or not, was a very good batsman at King's College in Auckland. You can go on. Andy Ellis is also a representative cricketer, and I think there's a lot of skill development in other sports which help you in your rugby career. So I think that's the first thing I'd like to say. The second thing is, I think you need to try and be the best you can be. And I'm not talking about as a rugby player. Because if you've got the desire to be a top person and be successful in a wide range of different things, I think that transfers into your ability to be a top sportsman. So I'm talking academically as well as your ability as a sports person or other interests that you may have. A lot of the All Blacks are bright boys and have worked hard academically to ensure they've got good qualifications. Like Richard McCaw's in the top 2 or 3% in New Zealand, IQ-wise. Now he got 8 straight A's first year at university. He got 400, he'd be embarrassed if I told you this, if any of you guys talking about this. He got 433 in university bursary in the old days. And that's a huge score. You know, that's top 2% in the country. Very bright. Andy Ellis, I'll try and mention the Crusaders. You know, he's got a degree in town planning. So there's a lot of guys, and I don't know if you realise, that are still pushing those buttons. They're still doing extra things. Rodney Sayualu has done a carpentry apprenticeship while he's been playing professional rugby. So I think that's also important, that you try and make sure that you're looking after the other aspects of your life. Now, I was a school principal for a reasonable length of time, 10 years, and it worried me the number of fine young athletes who put all their eggs in that basket, and many of them didn't make it, and they finished with nothing. Because they wanted to be a professional rugby league player or a professional rugby union player or whatever, and they didn't make the cut, and they finished up sad people. I went to a wedding recently, 3 or 4 years ago. Carlos Spencer got married. You may remember him. I won't go into that. But he was an outstanding rugby player. And he was getting married, and they had a number of All Blacks there. And they were at the end of their career, all these guys. In fact, they are. And they were finding life difficult after rugby because they had nothing to fall back to. And I felt sad for them. But they hadn't looked after them, making sure that everything was right on the way through. So I think, I can't stress that enough, guys. And I know that a lot of you here, that's not going to be your future. You're not looking at being a professional sportsman, but some of you will be. And if you just focus on that and that alone, that puts a huge pressure on you to be successful. And if you're not successful, if you don't make the cut, what happens then? So I can't stress that enough. And you don't have to be the Prime Minister or a lawyer or an accountant. There's a wide number of fields that you can get those qualifications in. If I was a young rugby player today and I wanted to make it, I would look at making sure that I had certain skills. And the 2 skills I'd look at is the ability to beat people, all right? The ability to step or run angles and those sort of things, and the ability to tackle. Because if you haven't got those 2 things, you're not going to make it. You're going to be big enough and fast enough, probably, all right, and powerful, and all those things. Because you've got experts helping you do that. But you're the only guy who can make sure that you can do those 2 most important things. And if you can do those things, if you can beat people, like Lindsay Racky used to, with the old step, you've got a future. And if you watched the game last night, and I enjoyed the game last night, the best team lost, but that's okay. It's true. If you watched the game last night, the guys who made the impression are the people who could beat people one-on-one. One was an old boy from the school, even I played number 12 and helped me. Tim Baker, that's dead right. So I think if you are keen to be a top pro, and you've got all the other boxes ticked, I think those are the two things you've got to work at. And I think most people sweat. Is that right? They're quite happy to go to the gym, and they're quite happy to run miles, and they're quite happy, or most of us are, or used to be, and they're quite happy to do the speed work. But the real difference is the ability to beat people and to stop people beating you. And if you can concentrate on those two things, the rest will probably look after itself. I had a speech written, but I forgot what I think that's about it. So those are the things I think that young people should be doing. Now you talk about, we talk a lot about in the All Blacks about standards, personal standards, and I think most of them live up to those standards most of the time. You know, that's respect for other people, respect for property, making good decisions when you're on the booze. All right? And you learn from those things, and working within the team's protocols or the team's culture. Now there's guys who play the game in this country who don't get selected for the All Blacks anymore because they can't do those things. So they are important, and you help with those things if you want to be a top pro. But can I emphasise to you that those things are critical, and in the end of the day, if people can't live within the protocols of the team and be decent, strong human beings, they don't play Test rugby, or they don't play for long. So I think it's important to just keep that in mind. So those are my ideas really about what young people need to do in rugby. There may be some disagreement on that, but that's just how I feel about it. But so good luck with your careers. It's good to see so many young, healthy, strong-looking rugby players out there. You know, the future of this game is in this hall, and places like this. Like first 15 rugby, I think, is the backbone, or schoolboy rugby is the backbone of rugby in this country. Schools that are sitting here today, I've got no doubt about it. And I think we're extremely fortunate to have that situation in this country. We've got good coaches who are putting time in, and good athletes who want to be top footballers. And it's superb. There's no other country that I know of in the world who can emulate what's going on in this country as far as first 15 rugby is concerned. Like you take, and I have to describe about my old school, so just give me a minute, the other 13 schools. From the last 5 years, there's 11 guys playing Super 14 rugby from Christchurch Boys High, and that is incredible. I coached Auckland Grammar School first 15 for 6 years, and there was 6 All Blacks in those 6 years, and they won 5 competitions, so they were okay, they weren't bad, and it was a very competitive competition. So what you're doing in generating quality players is quite remarkable. I guess when you've got 500 players and 20 teams, that's a huge foundation to be able to do that. Quite remarkable. Being world champions in 2005 and New Zealand champions in 2004, 2005 and 2006 is really the strike material, but what's happening under that's the important thing, isn't it? 500 kids playing rugby at a school of 1,400, am I right? Is a remarkable achievement, and a lot of schools are doing that throughout the country, and that's why New Zealand rugby is generally the best in the world. There was a hiccup last year, I can't remember that now, but apparently there was. But those things happen. Bloody hard to take. But there we are.